but I vow to open myself to taste it. Koans about freedom. Erica, if you weren't there on Tuesday, gave a wonderful talk about Hakuin and the fox, Paijong and the fox. I love that koan. Some of these koans take a long time to settle in. That's why you keep coming back to them. It's like, what was that? But then something catches you, a phrase or an image or a felt sense, and it acts on you, on my experiences on a cellular level. They're ancient, passed across time and space. They echo, and they echo inside of us and our hearts and among ourselves. And you just get surprised when something pops up. You didn't even know it was there. It's like, oh, and then there's an opening, and then a forgetting, and then it pops up again. That's the beauty of our practice, is this freedom practice. It's like breathing, as Suzuki Roshi says, and zazen. It's continuous, and there's no end to it. That was ultimately why I settled down in this practice in Buddhism. It was the first thing that I had ever encountered in my life that had no limits. I was never going to come up against the end of it, or at the end of myself, or all of you, or the whole world, or love and compassion. And I think, wow, how lucky is that? So here's the one I want to bring forward today that just popped up for me. Sort of wandering around in the koans. Old friends, new friends. I was sitting the Everyday Zen Sesshin last week. And there, like here, although over the course of a week in the sesshin, is people are in their homes and in their temples. Each person makes a home temple. Each of you is in your temple. You think it's just your home. It's your temple. And I thought of the koan about building a temple in the blade of grass, which is what I'm going to present today. It's also because those of us in California, people keep noting, I keep being blown away that there's new, green, fresh blades of grass coming up. It's been so dry. And then the mystery of just one blade of grass and another blade of grass. And they're so tender and so resilient. I didn't think I was going to tell this story, but I will. When I was a psychotherapist, I used to do a lot of hypnotherapy with people, and also, of course, did it myself. And I remember once entering a really deep state and became a blade of grass. And it's not will, but that each blade of the life force of each blade of grass has its own integrity. It's like the opening of the seed and the unfolding. Is we think, oh, that's just one blade of grass over there. And oh, look at that whole field turning green. But to really enter the mystery and the wonder of each thing, including the tiniest blade of grass, this is it. This is the Dharma. This is Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So all of those things led me to this koan, which is from the Book of Serenity, case number 4. The world honored one points to the ground. The world honored one points to the ground. The world-honored one is Shakyamuni Buddha, in the Buddha of I was going to say lifetime. Eric explained it really well last week. I mean, on Tuesday. Shakyamuni Buddha is the Buddha of the world system that we live in right now, because there have been Buddhas across time and space. So the name we give the Buddha that we know in the Nirmanakaya body is Shakyamuni Buddha. And Indra, who's going to come up here, is the king of the gods. So kind of like a big, high being. Something revered and absolute and wondrous. And as you'll see, just completely here with all of us. So we're starting to understand maybe a little bit the way the way the cases are laid out. There's a preface, there's a case, and then there's commentaries. Our job, of course, is to take in all of this and then to find our own commentaries, because if we don't find how these echo and resonate in us, it's just nice words bouncing around time and space and not landing on the ground. Weizhang's preface. Once a speck of dust arises, the whole great earth is embraced in it. You pick up any speck of dust, any blade of grass, and it is the entire world. The whole great earth is embraced in it. You could spend your whole life on any one of these. Here's the case. When the world-honored one, Shakyamuni Buddha, was walking with his assembly, let's note walking on the ground with other people, Sangha, he pointed to the ground with his hand, not some mystical object or just a simple pointing to the ground with a human hand. These details are important, and said, "This very place is good for building a temple. This place, right where you are, is good for building a temple." Not back then, not something special, right where you are. Ground, here. And Indra then took a stalk of grass and stuck it in the ground and said, "The temple has been built." That's simple. And the world-honored one smiled. I think it's beautiful that throughout our tradition, and Thich Nhat Hanh has certainly brought that forward, but if you look at all the statues of the Buddha, there's a smile. It's not a grin, a smile. So there's something important here that this is pointing to. So here's some verses, some commentaries. This is Hongji's verse from Wick's commentary. On the 100 grass tips, boundless spring, or boundless life, alive, possibilities everywhere. This boundless alive on the 100,000 million plants. Taking what's at hand, using what's ever here. Use it freely. You already have everything you need. I'm adding my own commentary in here a little bit. Picking up what comes to hand, use it knowingly. Avalokiteshvara has an implement, has something in each of her 1,000 hands. Use it. Find it. Buddha's 16-foot tall golden Buddha of manifold merit. The 16-foot tall golden body, a collection of virtuous qualities. There's another beautiful Zen image, must be from a koan, that we are all 16-foot tall Buddhas. It looks like it's just you, Elizabeth and Linda and Debbie and Marianne and Kyle, and it's just you and it's just me. But when I feel it the most is when I walk in a zendo and everyone's sitting there. And the feeling of, oh, this is a room glowing with 16-foot tall golden Buddhas. I even had that feeling last week at Sesshin. Everybody's on Zoom, of course, and I had to come in the middle of a period, and I could feel it. It was just, I was sort of taken aback by how my little Zoom screen was blown open with glowing Buddhas. That's how it is if you look, well, you shouldn't look, but when everybody's sitting at the beginning of these, they show up every week and we sit together. Just sit for 30 minutes and follow your breath. And 16-foot tall golden Buddhas, a collection of virtuous qualities. Going on with the commentary. Spontaneously extending a hand and entering the red dust. I want to bring forward the word spontaneously. Wasn't planned. They didn't make up this dialogue and then handed out the scripts. It happened because they and we are open to and responsive and responding to everything. Causality leads you by the hand into the red dust. Just show up, pay attention. Within the dust, be the host. You are the center of everything. Suzuki Roshi says, be the boss of everything. I used to hate that phrase. What in the world is he talking about? I don't want to boss people around. Look deeply. You are in the center of myriad worlds, the center of everything. Each person, each thing starts blowing your mind. Coming from another world, naturally you're a guest. Believing you're outside, you think you're a guest. Wherever you are, enter. Fully. Dharma gates are boundless. Be content with your role. Everywhere, life is sufficient in its way. Stop thinking it's going to be better someplace else. Or if you were better, or just this, just here. Dislike not those more adept than you. Forget the competition, the comparison. Our minds do it. Just bow. No matter if one is not as clever as others, just bow. Just bow. Here's more commentary by Wick. Growth requires developing a larger vision, unconstrained by our usual limited mind, like Indra and Buddha. We all have blind spots, and we project our worldview from these dark places. We keep making our world small and ourselves small. That projection inevitably distorts our relations with others, with the world, and with ourselves. We need to practice awareness. Zazen, presence, breathing in, breathing out, in order to develop clarity and to perceive the difference between reality and distortions. That's waking up. That's freedom. We also need, you may have noticed this, perseverance. Because without it, we will not generate the heat necessary to melt our self-grasping ignorance. Just keep coming back. Otherwise, just standards and judgments. But we can look at the world with a larger vision and see what arises. Wick says the Bible says your body is your temple. A piece of grass is your temple too. All dharmas in the 10 directions are your body and your temple. But as Weishang in his commentary said, repairs won't be easy. That's why we need each other and the Dharma. We help each other. The whole world is helping us. Yamato's comment. If we pick up a grain of dust, the entire universe is contained within it. A sutra says Mount Sumeru, huge mountain in Japan, contains a poppy seed. And the poppy seed contains Mount Sumeru. If we are still thinking of the poppy seed and Mount Sumeru as two separate things, it is not yet the real fact. You, each one of you, us, we, must realize that each of us exhausts the entire universe, that each of us is alone and honored in the entire universe with no one above and no one below us. Wherever we are is always the center. So Indra is right in saying the temple is erected. At any time, it is the center of the universe. It is the essential world. The temple erected in our true mind and heart will never crumble. The one is the many, and the many is the one, and wherever we are, it is heaven itself. I love all these commentaries. I hope you are too, because I got some more. Taigen Shinshan's commentary. How could anybody ever find sanctuary on this bloody, war-torn, sorrowful, broken earth? And yet a single growing blade of grass can homeopathically turn the whole world and heal the poisoned world. Released, freedom. May we redeem and transform greed, hate, and delusion. No sacred ground. Save all grounds. Every speck of dirt, every speck of dirt. Every grain of sand, as Erica reminded us on Tuesday, is holy, holy. Time and space incomprehensible. And just this. Weeds grow through cracks in the concrete. A church was built over a temple, which in turn was built over an ancient burial ground. And still weeds grow through cracks in the concrete. Did it ever blow you away? Walking down a city street and somehow a seed and a plant comes up through the concrete. Talk about perseverance and life force. Mountains, rivers, God's green earth. Spring plants, autumn moonlight, lightning flashes, light up the ponds. Indra would have more quickly built the temple had he left the grass stalk where it was. Like, just don't go messing with it. I mean, mess with it because you're human. You have to do something. But fundamentally, it's already built. Just wake up. That's freedom. We don't have to impose our will on ourselves or anybody else. Doesn't mean not doing something. It just means just be the center of the whole universe and listen and respond. Okay, here's one more. From one of my favorites, as you know, Maureen Stewart. She was one of the first women teachers of our generation that I became aware of. And her book, Subtle Sound, we've studied before, and I will always, if you don't have this book, it's a wonderful one. I go back to her talks and lectures over and over again. And I'm so curious always because she died cancer before her time, and I think, who would she be now and what would she be saying? Because she was still more, my sense is she was still more rooted, she was still closer to the what had been handed us in the more traditional ways. I think if she was alive now, she was creative back then. So curious. And I think, well, she's handing it to us. Let's find out. Let's take her and jump off of her shoulders and Shakyamuni Buddha's shoulders and each other's shoulders and find out what this aliveness of this tradition is. So I'm going to read you parts of chapter 11 called Building a Temple. It must have something to do with this koan. The Buddha, while out walking one day, stopped and pointed and said, "This is a wonderful spot to build a temple." Oh, and here, she says, instead of Indra, she says a bodhisattva. Well, that's kind of sweet. I like that. Brings it more down to earth. A bodhisattva stepped forward. Could have been you or me. Placed well, here she says a flower. She changed the blade of grass to a flower. Could be many things, and said, "I have just built a beautiful temple." Where is the most wonderful spot to build a temple? It is in each one of us. The bodhisattva placing a flower or a blade of grass on that spot is a bodhisattva placing a flower, fresh green life in our hearts. Each one of us sitting on our cushions is building a beautiful temple. Wherever we are is a wonderful place to build a temple. Someone came to me and said, "I feel so lacking." At this moment, what do you lack? Not a thing. As the truth eternally reveals itself, this very place is the lotus land of purity. This very body is the body of Buddha. This very spot is a wonderful place to build a temple. The essence of our practice is letting the ego self fall away, melt down. It is the practice of forgetting the self. As we become less self-conscious, less self-involved, we become more open and more warmly present. And what we discover as this melting down takes place is that what we really are is pure, clear, lighted, mind itself, nothing else. This is freedom. So the aimless aim, the goalless goal of our zazen is to conduct and live our lives from this clear, lighted heart mind, this always just beginning mind. We're back to Suzuki Roshi. Just beginner's mind. Over and over. Our inner eyes, our hearts, little openings, we go on and on. But this insight is not our awareness, but Buddha's heart-mind awareness of itself in us, awakening. It's out of time, out of space, it's not subject to circumstances, and it has no name. Pure presence of things just as they are, without thinking, with no intentional attitude at all. No, I believe this to be the case, or is it or isn't it? Just be here, pure presence, the center of everything, wide open, breathing in and out. This is the ground of our being. Awakening, this is what our practice is for. What does it give us for our lives? A strong seat, a firm base, that life can be dealt with. Hara belly full, heart full, head cool and awake. We may all have periods of weariness or pain, but it's just a passing, an impermanent condition. And fundamentally, we are all Buddha from the very beginning. And this very life, this very moment, this exactly what you have, what you think you like or you don't like, or if it was different, or this is the perfect place. This is the temple. Just plant the blade of grass, the flower, over and over, just this. Okay, so now it's your turn to do commentary. We know no